Hi, I'm Bart Herbison, Executive Director of the Nashville Songwriters Association, and this week, the story behind the song, the great songwriter Chris Wallin, and Don't Blink, as recorded by Chesney. You and Casey Beathard get together to write one day. This is such a moving song. I mean, this is really poignant. It's touched a lot of lives. So I'm going to use the word, I'll ask you the question about the song this way. What was the, on purpose I use this word, inspiration? Because it's inspiration.
Well, I'd had the idea for that song for about a year. And you know, it was one of those things that I felt really personal about, because I had lost like 3 major family members within a 2-year period. And, you know, my mother, my grandmother, my brother. And, you know, it's when something like that happens, it kind of, you know, there was a line that I actually was wanting to put in the song that never made it in the song, that, you know, we always send flowers to people when they're gone. We should send them when they're living. Mm-hmm. And you know, and you don't always have that time. Anyway, Casey come in and we got to talking, and someone had a near accident in front of his house. And you know, he was talking about, man, you don't ever know what's going to happen. And we started talking about that, you know, about how time's short. And I was telling him, you know, about all the people that I'd lost, and I'd had this idea. And we started writing the idea, and the idea of the man, while we were writing it, we were going back and forth on whether to, you know, how old the old man was. And we were trying to decide whether, you know, 102 years old was too old, you know. But my wife, Camille, her grandmother, had just passed away at 104. So we decided that 102 wasn't.
Good decision, because that's just so, it paints a picture, that age does. Now here, you said you came in with the idea. A lot of people write songs about loss. It's something we experience. Hooks are always important, but Don't Blink, oh, it's strong. Was that an idea you brought into the room that day?
Yes, I had that idea for about a year, and
it says it all, don't you think?
It was just what it just. I tried to write it all different ways, and I just wasn't happy with, you know. And today was, I mean, that day was, it's time when, you know, it just was one of those things where it just kind of rolled out.
And you and Casey had written before together?
Yes. And what was funny is there's a whole story behind that I had pitched Casey a song for Trace Atkins, and he actually cut the song on Trace, and it didn't make the album. And
Don't Blink?
No, another song called Love Me If You Can, that was a number one, ended up being a number one with Toby Keith. And during that time, he said, man, let's get together and write some. So we got together and wrote Don't Blink, and which was, you know, Love Me If You Can was a 5-year-old song by then. Well, Don't Blink came out, and Toby had cut Love Me If You Can, and they was on the charts at the same time, and I ended up knocking myself out of number one with Don't Blink knocked me out of number one from Love Me If You Can.
Well, it's at any time, but especially at that time, what's the cut you want? Kenny Chesney. How did that happen?
That was one of those things that I had 2 songs on that album. One of them was Got a Little Crazy Last Night. And and it was just one of those kind of out of the blue things that happened. It was, I think I was at a convenience store, and I just got a call. Hey, Kenny just cut "Don't Blink," and and I knew that he had it on hold because when we finished "Don't Blink," we said, "Oh, this is Kenny Chesney." Yeah, well, and Kenny wasn't looking for
that. Yeah,
he wasn't looking for any ballads at all, and he wasn't looking for any. So they said no ballads. So we finished it, and we said, "Oh, this is so Kenny," but everybody said, "Well, he specifically said no ballads." Well, we took it to Troy Tomlinson, and Troy heard it, and he called Buddy Cannon, and Buddy got, he said, okay, he goes, well, I'll listen to it, but we're not looking for any. Anyway, make a long story longer, I was, I'd heard that part, but what I didn't know is when Buddy heard the song, they played it. Him and Kenny were in the studio, if I'm not mistaken. They were working on a Willie Nelson record, and he actually bumped one of his own songs that he wrote off the record to put "Don't Blink" on there. Well,
and him,
yeah. Buddy is just such a class
song guy. Now, there's another part to this. You got a lot thicker skin than most songwriters, because I think the day this comes out, you put the lyrics online.
I did.
And people they were brutal. This song is no good, whatever. And somehow in all this internet frenzy of, I can't respect anybody that would think that, but a professional reviewer that shall remain nameless says this: sometimes the songwriter's right and the artist and everybody else is wrong. I have to laugh at this. The lyric of this song makes absolutely no sense. Otherwise, excellent songwriter Chris Wallin, writer of I'm Trying, Speed, Something to Be Proud Of, Love Me If You Can, could, of course, keep the hook line and use the rest of the lyric to explore what exactly the character in the song is saying. Instead, he simply says the title and runs through a series of unimaginative, unsubstantiated, and unrealistic examples of what the song's supposed to be about. I wish that more of this artist's recent singles sounded like this, for the production and vocal are strong and reminiscent of the earlier material that won them most of their fans. However, nothing can salvage such a terrible piece of songwriting.
Just warms your heart, doesn't it?
I'll quote another song title. How Do You Like Me Now? Great song. Casey Beathard and Chris Wallin wrote Don't Blink for Kenny Chesney, and we want to hear a little bit of this moving piece of musical work.
Turn on the evening news to old man being interviewed. Turn 102 today. When they asked him the secret of life, he looked up from his old pipe and he said, all I can say is don't blink. Just like that, you're 6 years old and you're taking that.